myself, then I suffer. And that, of course, is what happens to all of us as children. So as I see it, what manifests as a child, what manifests as everything, is this universal, all-encompassing consciousness, that which creates and is part of everything. So this consciousess manifests in this little girl child, this baby. And at first, if you asked this consciousness what it was, and if it could talk, it would say what it was, which is, I am connected to all things, I am part of the source, I'm connected to everything, I don't see any separation, I'm just here, I'm presence, I'm beingness, is what that child would say. But what happens in this world is we start telling this infinite consciousness with no characteristics, we start defining it, and we say, oh, you are a little girl, and you live here, and this is your mommy, and this is your daddy, and these are your qualities. We think you're really... Then the parents project their stuff onto the child, and if the parent was taught by his parent that he was whatever, then he just passes it on. He passes on the poison and the beauty, whatever it is. And this child makes up a story. Like what's happening here, what's being born here is just a being. It's just beingness. And my mommy and daddy tell me that I'm a little girl and I'm smart and I am whatever, whatever they tell me. So I make up this story about myself and I say, I'm little Jill and I'm a good girl and I like school and whatever. I make up a story that, and this is my body, this is me, and these are my toys. This is called ego. Ego is a false identification with what we're told we are. I'm not a little girl. I'm not a human being. I am, I don't know what the word is, just beingness, awareness, pure consciousness. And I am expressing myself through the form here, through the DNA. So, once the child makes up this false story, then the story becomes the central belief of life. The story of me and mine and what I need and what I want and what's important. And I'm taught all this. And again, so everything that the child does through the actualization of this story, this false story, is just totally made up. And again, as parents, if we give the child messages like you're bad, you're guilty, you're stupid, you're worthless, you're dishonest, you're a bitch, you're what, if those are the stories, then that's what the child incorporates into her story. All of those become the qualities that she believes in. And the amazing thing about it is that the child creates that. If I believe that if I'm ugly and stupid and worthless, if that's what my story becomes because I'm taught it, I will see in the world validation of that story wherever I look. I will selectively perceive those people and those things to prove to me that my story is real. And that's basically what all of us do in this world. We create a life to make the story we believe to be real. By selective perception. So if I believe I'm good, that I am deserving of everything just because of what I am, if I believe I don't have to struggle to get love, then that's what I will discover in my life. If I believe that if I'm taught that life is a struggle and that you can never get anything you want, you work hard and you fail, then that's exactly what will happen. So the false story that we make up becomes the center of our life. And every one of us, therefore, will suffer because the false story is false. So if I believe that I am whatever, I believe that, I believe that I want certain things to make me happy. So let's call me Jerry. This Jerry thinks that if he gets a PhD or a new house or a new woman or whatever, that it'll bring me happiness. But whatever Jerry gets is just coming from that false story, the false identification with this body and this whole idea that tells me that those things are important to give me value. And when I get them, what happens? Emptiness. Just like after Christmas, you get all the stuff you think you want, and within a few days, it's like you feel the emptiness of it because they didn't give you anything. It gave the story that you have of you something, but it's so superficial and it just falls apart. Nothing that the ego self thinks it wants will ever satisfy who you really are. It just supposedly satisfies the small self, and that is endless. And that's why we always want more and more. The ego is never able to be satisfied because it never works. There's never enough out there because we're not the ego. So, I hope this is making sense to you all here. So, what we want to teach the child is who she really is. Not only do we want to teach the child that, but what we need to learn that ourselves, because we're stuck in that. When you realize the bondage of it, the bind of it, that we have this belief that when we talk about the separate, we think we're separate. So this one spirit is manifesting in everybody. It's the same one spirit in everybody. So there's no separate me and you and you and you and you and you. There's only one of us. And that one of us is expressing itself through all these different forms. But the form thinks that it's separate. And it thinks that it's an it, separate from what it really is. The ego makes us feel that we're separate from everything and everyone. But there really isn't, in fact, a separate self in any of us. And a way to see that, you can see this in anything, and it has to do with language. Language is to a large degree our bondage. Because it forces us into a word like a chair. This could be any word because it's all the same. A word is a concept. A concept is an idea. An idea doesn't exist in reality. Ideas are ideas, right? So if you look at the chair and you say, well, where's the chair? I say, well, is this leg the chair? No. Is this cushion the chair? Well, no. Is this back the chair? No. You could put all the different pieces, are those little pieces of plastic down that chair? No. So where's the chair? Point to it. You cannot point to a chair because it isn't here. The chair is a concept that we use in our mind, that word, to say that all these separate things are a chair. But look, there isn't a chair. And that's true of every object, every noun that you could think of is just an idea. And that idea is an idea that's what ego is. The ego is an idea. And the way it works with a person is I have thoughts. Thoughts are arising. And a body, physical sensations are arising, and internal sensations are arising, and feelings are arising, right? That's what you can see. You can see the body, you can see all these things, but where's Jerry? Where's the me? Where's me? There is no me. And meditators have been, of course, aware of this for thousands of years, but now scientists are showing that there is no part of the brain or nervous system that is a separate me self. There's no me in there. There's no little guy in here, Jerry, who's talking to you. So, as long as we live in this illusionary space, we believe that we are limited by our story. We believe that we're in this body, that we're helpless. We believe that we were born. We believe that we're going to die because we believe we're this, right? When we have the story, we feel separated from everyone. We feel lonely. It's impossible not to be frightened or depressed. It's really a very, very unhappy trip to go around carrying false self. A false self that can never find fulfillment, that can never find love, that's always searching for more. I mean, what a trip. And that's what certainly the first noble truth of Buddhism states. It's suffering. Life is suffering. And it's suffering for that very reason. And as long as we go along thinking we're what we think, we suffer. So, what's education about? I mean, what could be more important for anybody to know than what they are? Now, of course, this kind of level of education isn't talked about in schools. That's not what schools are there to teach. What schools are there to do is focus on the mind. And the mind, as we can readily see, when we're quiet, we can watch our mind. The mind is a machine, made by the brain. And we can sit there and watch our mind just like we could watch any other object. It's a very interesting object. It's got all sorts of stuff going on all the time, but it's a machine. It can't tell us anything meaningful. It can't tell us the meaning of anything. It can't tell you how to have a happy life. It can't tell you who you are. It can't tell you what will give you satisfaction. It can't tell you how to have a positive relationship. It can't tell you how to raise kids. It can't tell you anything except regurgitated facts and linear information that is received. And that is the focal point of our educational system. It's the focal point of most people. That's what they think that's where they get their information from. That's how they try to figure out life, by thinking about it, as though their mind can give you an answer. And again, what's obvious to me, as we look at the mind, is like, whoa, here I am, universal, infinite consciousness that includes everything, and I'm looking at this machine spewing out these thoughts. And I think, wow, it's interesting, but to identify with the machine and to forget that I am the witness of the machine is the great mistake of this world. As long as we identify with the thinking machine and forget that it's just a machine, that the thoughts that it's spewing out are almost always false, especially the fearful thoughts, and that when we get caught up into believing those thoughts, we suffer. Okay, so we have, let me talk about DNA here for a minute. So this consciousness comes into a human form. And there's a secret that's being known today. For some reason it's been a secret. How do we get that consciousness to become a human being that's conscious of what it is? How do we get that little girl to remember that she is one with everyone, and that her heart is her source of being, and that there's nothing to be afraid of, and that her nature is love? How do we get her to not forget that? And the answer is, that problem has already been solved for us. We don't have to do anything. What we have to do, so what I'm saying here is that within the DNA of the human being, the human child, I'll compare it to the DNA of a pigeon. The pigeon has a little tiny brain, has a different kind of DNA, but it's programmed. The little pigeon, when it's born, knows how to fly across continents, knows how to navigate from the stars, changing constellations, an incredible knowledge of astronomy and the universe that most scientists today don't even have. It's inborn. And all the creatures, to some degree or another, have that kind of incredible knowledge. Like the salmon that knows the total geography of all the streams and rivers on the planet and how the ocean currents work, and they know exactly how to go with it. Like, again, science